Hello and welcome. I'm Rick Amos with Coin World. Today we're sitting down with Kenny Duncan Jr., who, along with his father, Kenny Sr., and brothers Blake and Matthew, are the owners of U.S. Coins and Jewelry and are four of our names on the Coin World's 2026 list of most influential people in numismatics. Kenny's family built a business that covers both the coin case and the jewelry counter, and along with the way, they have become one of the most recognizable faces in the hobby, especially online, doing some exciting things here, bringing coin collecting to a whole new generation through social media and live selling. Whether you followed them for years or you're just finding out who they are, stick around. We're going to talk with Kenny about how they got started, how the business has grown, and where he thinks the hobby is heading next. Kenny, thanks so much for being here today.
Hey, Rick, appreciate you having me. Thank you.
Now, I'm really looking forward to this conversation. So let's jump right into some of the questions here.
All right.
So let's start with maybe the background and the path into the hobby, if you will. So take us back to the beginning. How did you and your family first get into coins? What led you to build a career in this business and basically keep doing this rather than just a hobby?
Yeah, so obviously, good question. I never thought coins would ever be my path, to be honest with you. Growing up, going to the coin shop with my dad on weekends and sorting Buffalo nickels and looking for 16D Merc dimes and '09 SVDBs and penny bags as a kid in the coin shop. I just never really looked at this, thought, oh, wow, this is going to be my future. I've always found I'm a collector at heart, right? So collecting is always something I've always done. The object just changed when I got a little bit older and got a little more into coins fundamentally. Started to realize just how rare a lot of these coins really are. And it turned into a fascination, and then it turned into business.
That's awesome. And are your brothers equally bitten by the same thing, or did you kind of lead it and they came along, or how did that all work? Because it's unusual to have, brothers and your father all be together.
Yeah, look, I think all three brothers are very unique, right? I think we're all bitten by doing good business. I think all of us have our own path to what we're doing. So like, Blake has a completely different business that he runs on his own and does a great job with. Matthew, my partner here at US Coins and Jewelry, has got his own set of revenue streams that he manages, right? So we all work pretty harmoniously together, I would say. And with dad being here and in the office every day and just being a good steward of the business, we're all getting our own advice. And, my dad's smart. He's a smart guy. He knows what each one of his sons needs to be successful. And we're really lucky to have him guide us and give us those little, whether it's encouragement or whether it's pull us to the side and give us our own kind of coaching. It makes it fun.
That's great. That's great. So what's the story behind U.S. Coins? I mean, what did it look like in the early days compared to now? I'm assuming it's had huge growth over the years.
Yeah, so US Coins was a coin shop in Sharpstown Mall in Houston, Texas. It was literally, I don't know, 1,000 square feet. And it was just what you would think of an old coin shop in a mall. And Sharpstown Mall was actually in I'd say kind of a median income neighborhood. So it wasn't a great mall, but it wasn't a bad mall. And I remember literally 13, 14, 15 years old going to that shop. I was actually more into sport cards back then. So I would do all the coin sorting and just do whatever the guys needed me to do, the guys that worked in the shop back then. And my uncle Johnny was involved in that shop pretty heavily back then. And I would sort coins for the first part of the morning. And then I would go out to we had a little baseball card section where we had 89 upper deck and 88 tops traded and 86 tops traded card packs. We had a little section where we were selling individuals, and I would literally spend my money that I made. I think it was $5 an hour or something then. I would literally buy one or two upper deck packs trying to hit a Ken Griffey Jr. rookie. So I was drinking my own Kool-Aid even at 11, even at an early age. But that coin shop was just like you would expected in the early 90s. Was an old dusty coin shop that had silver bracelets, gold bracelets, certified coins, raw coins, bins of dollars, bins of Buffalo nickels, Lincoln cents, V nickels, all that stuff. And it was your traditional coin shop. It was fun. And then Kenny and my dad and my uncle Dan, they got a place over on the Richmond building by the Galleria in Houston. wow, what a whole new ball game that was. They had a huge office space with offices and all these traders, great ones like Paul Montgomery, Robert McGee, Mike Fulgens was in there.
Hmm.
We had Clark Samuelson, which was just one of the greatest guys I ever knew growing up as a kid. He's just such a sweet, awesome guy. We miss him a lot. But it was just it was the Wild West. You had Brian Yutzi in there, obviously my dad, Uncle Danny, Jack Hertzberg. There were a lot of the greats were in that office, and man, what is some great memories just sitting around and looking at all the 20 stacked up on the desk right when PCGS started certifying coins. There was just pandemonium every time I would go there.
And how old were you then?
I would say early teens.
So it started real early for you. And so was it your father or a mentor or a coin or a deal, or what convinced you early on that this is where you wanted to spend your career?
Yeah, it was my dad called me. I was living in Florida at the time. I was doing the college thing and not doing a great job at the college thing. And he's like, "Hey, why don't you come try the coin business? Computers." I was into computers a lot. I was building computers in my garage as a kid, in my mid-teens, and as I got a little bit later in my teens, I was really into computers and just the construction and building them from scratch and learning how they worked.
Yeah.
He was like, "Hey, I think that our paths could intersect here." So I actually came in 2000 to Houston to start the eBay division for US Coins. And I had a little office, and I just way too young to understand the opportunity I was given, right? Just completely just not a smart, not a smart approach, I would say, on my end. And I think the lack of just understanding of the way all of that worked from the people that were giving it to me. Now, granted, my uncle Danny was big into computers as well, which is one of the reasons I even got into computers.
Yeah.
I idolized my uncle Danny as a young kid.
Yeah, he's
He
a
was
good
just,
man.
oh, he's just, I mean, there's just they don't come much greater than Danny. And he really did his best to really try to get me into it, but I just couldn't wrap my head around coins. I just couldn't wrap my head around how that people would find them interesting. And of course, a lot of the collectors were older gentlemen, right? There weren't young guys my age. We were all ripping baseball packs and,
Yeah.
doing everything but looking at coins. So there wasn't anything that really intrigued me about them at a young age. And I would say as I got like into my mid 20s and I worked in the wholesale division with my dad. So I kind of got out of the storefront type and got more into wholesale and trading and going to coin shows.
Yeah.
Then I started to see it a little bit differently. I started to see the sheer volume of what basically friendly competitors do, right? I mean, you go to a coin show, you're really all vying for the same thing, and that's that retail customer to help start, just an all-time collection. But underneath the scene or, behind the scenes, you're really trading coins between each other and, making your margin and having a good time and building good relationships. And I think that's when I started to realize the potential of what could be done.
Well, and what a great benefit to have your father and your uncle help you cut your teeth, and your brothers, and if you will, guide you, and let's not do this, let's do that, maybe let's lean into this. I mean, that's a phenomenal resource that a lot of people don't get the advantage of, and obviously it builds to the legacy of the company and why you guys have such a stellar reputation.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's 100% why we're all here, right? If we didn't have that and weren't taught how to do business the right way the first time, we wouldn't be where we're at today for sure.
Yeah, well, that's great. So let's move into maybe the business and building the business itself. So, running a shop that covers coins and jewelry is a little unusual. I mean, everybody's diversifying now, but how do those two sides maybe support each other, and how do you or your siblings kind of split your time, if you will, between them? Is it one or the other, or do you just divide and conquer?
Yeah, it's divide and conquer. I mean, that's really always been. I think a lot of people use the word we wear many hats. And if it's not chaos, then we don't thrive, right? Like it just, when it's slow and there's just like this really like just a boundary list of things that we want to do, to me, that's just not fun. Like I like to have my hands in everything possible. So US Coins and Jewelry is kind of a tricky name because we really don't do a ton of jewelry. We do some,
Yeah.
we do a lot more in watches and we do a lot in other collectibles.
Which
And
is a
that's
hot
really
market,
where
has been for a while, right? Watches are crazy good.
it has been, right? And we were in it kind of as users in the beginning. We just liked watches. And then we started to realize that I felt like if we could apply our business principles from the coin business to the watch business, then we could probably do a pretty good job at it. And that's just taking care of people and writing fast checks. And we really started doing that not only just in watches, but in sports cards, high-end memorabilia, rare stuff. And then that hobby boomed. And it's got to be the biggest hobby now on the planet, sports cards memorabilia.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just, I've never seen anything like it. I've never been around anything that's just more, that's got more just vigor. I mean, it's insane. We've set up as a coin company at Fanatics Fest in New York City, which is the biggest, I would say, the biggest collectible show on the planet. And to see all of the young kids looking for something to collect, it's just, it's astonishing.
The National was just here in Chicago, and it was a massive show. To your point.
I was there. We were set up. Yeah, we were there set up. We've got a spinoff company that's in the collectible space, Celebrity Mint, that sets up at these shows. And
Yep.
the revenue that we've done at some of these shows and the people that we've met, the collectors we've met, insane. And would you believe that probably 1 out of 10 know anything about numismatics? So I'm bullish on numismatics, and I know we're kind of skipping around, but man, I am so bullish on numismatics just based on what I've seen in this other collectible space. And that when people get on it and get keyed in, they would evaporate numismatics in 6 months because of the lack of supply. That's how rare coins really are based on the stuff that I'm seeing these guys buy now.
Yeah. Well, you're right in that, we've been in the collectible space on the publishing side, as you know, and the intrinsic value of numismatics has an advantage that, if you will, ink on cardboard doesn't have in sports memorabilia, right? You've seen that market go up and down over the years, but watches too, they're hot, then they're not. But boy, oh boy, when you got gold and silver, there's something different about it, right?
And that's, it's a great point. And that's when we're doing our education on numismatics, it's really more about what's manufactured rarity and what's really rare, right? So like a sport card can be manufactured a 1 of 1 or 1 of 10 or 1 of 20 or whatever that number is. It can be manufactured that way. But coins were manufactured by the mint. There was mint records. There's trade history. There's population reports furnished by PCGS and NGC and other grading companies. So you can really discern what's rare and what's not. Well, in sports cards and even in watches, the reason that Rolex got hot is because when they realized their market started to get hot, they started to withhold production of their models so they could raise the price on the entire fleet, right? So it's all manufactured and manipulated to what the world wants at that time. And here's gold and silver, and here's rare coins, numismatics. They're just floating around. It's like, hey, we're really rare, but no one's really paying attention to us, right? So how do we get into the fold? How do we get into this cycle? And I think time's going to just continue to be our friend. I think it'll slow and steady wins the race on these things.
Yeah, no, you're right. These a lot of these other industries go through cycles, but yeah, and coins will too, but it just never goes away, right? I mean, it's just never going to go away. And so, the brick and mortar store, if you will, a lot of people are moving away from that and what I'll call the new economy. It's been around for 10 or 15, 20 years now. But were there lessons learned and maybe cutting your teeth in that space that have helped you today? Or I would assume you still have good traffic at the store too. It's not completely online.
Yeah, the best thing I ever did, and the reason why we actually started a podcast to talk about the best things that we did to really build this business was marketing and advertising. And I can think back, I was thinking about some of these answers last night, and I was thinking about the first time I hired a social marketing company and a Google SEM and SEO ad agency. I remember they were looking at their quote that they sent me, and I think it was like $4,500 a month, and I just I just couldn't imagine that I was about to commit to a 6-month relationship with a company that you're really just betting on the come, right? But with betting on the come, you can be strategic about it. And I would say that every time, for me, it really starts with it's advertising, right? And then it's like, you've got to find the right people, because once customers come in the door from your advertising, you have to have interactions that are long withstanding and that people can trust. So you've got to hire the right people. Yeah. And then again, there's a lot of sticker shock that comes with hiring the right person, right? A lot of times a good person, a good employee is not cheap. So you go through this series of sticker shock. And I honestly think that the ones who are able to digest the sticker shock the best are the ones that have the most success. because you just have to invest in your business. So to answer your original question, getting into marketing side of things and understanding a little bit more how digital space works, and getting away from, and I don't want to say print in general, because I think some print is very useful and still to this day is useful. But spending $100 to $150,000 in a Yellow Pages ad versus spending 35,000 on Google search terms, we found that the Google search terms were a lot better versus a $150,000 ad in Yellow Pages, because who the heck looks at a Yellow Pages anymore? Right. So as some of these things start to fade out and cycle out, the company at that point was stuck in their old ways. And as I got in under the hood and started understanding the mechanics of how the business ran a little bit, I was able to make some changes, and we started to see a different flow of traffic and a good market. You throw a good market or two in there, and all of a sudden now you're recognized. And when you're recognized as the guys, especially in a Houston, like a city like Houston, it doesn't take long to build a good customer base. So I'd say that, the long and short answer there was pretty much just being able to kind of trust the marketing, trust the process there, and then finding the right people to help service the customers that come in.
I would think this to be true because we've experienced it as well, and that your customer base comes to you not sure what to expect.
Yeah.
They're looking for a good experience and comfort, knowledge, expertise, service, all those things before they really are going to go, okay, I want to build a set or I want to build a collection.
Right.
And I would think that would be true. And the having a storefront probably helps you with that, because there's a million places you can buy a coin, and half of them are some guy in his second bedroom in his pajamas, right?
Yeah.
And for most people, they want more than that. It's more than just getting the coin. They really want a relationship with the dealer.
Yeah, 100%. And they want some security about the product if maybe their financial situation changes. And I think that that's where all the good dealers have separated themselves, is with some buyback or some relationship there. Someone does want to step out on the ledge and say, you know what, I do want to buy a high relief in 5. It's going to cost me, 60,000. But I know that this guy, if something ever goes wrong, I can bring it back and maybe get 90 or 85% of what I paid. And again, I mean, that's not a great business proposition to walk in and leave 10 or 15% on the table. But to know that you've got a dealer network, or you could go to a coin show and you'd have 10 or 15 dealers that would offer somewhere in that price range, it's got to make you feel pretty good, rather than going to buy a $50,000 sports card. And now you're literally dealing face to face with a guy in his pajamas, trying to buy it back with 3 different payment types, whether it's cash, Zelle, a PayPal, and it's this, and take 10 cards on trade. So, to me, that's where I feel like the coin hobby is going to remain to be strong, because it's the dealer network that you have and the professionals that you have in this industry have been there a long time. And there's a lot of great companies out there to do business with.
Yeah, cream kind of rise to the top, right? I noticed that it shows and the experience, because, we don't have a dog in the fight. Our role is to bring buyers and sellers together. So when they'll come by our booth or they'll call and talk to us, the experience they really have when we say, what makes you pick dealer A over dealer B or C? And they'll say the warm and fuzzies I get, the knowledge, the service, the trust, because, it's an online world we're in, and there's a place for that. Don't get me wrong. But, if somebody's building a collection or going to spend a lot of money over time, they want that personal relationship.
Yeah. I say to our staff a lot that the live streaming is the chum, right? And it's bringing sharks to the boat, and it's who's going to be able to land the most, right? I mean, you got to have the live streaming. It's great. I think it's amazing. I think it gets coins in people's hands that probably would have maybe never interfaced with them before. And if it does, like you said, if it does spark an itch somewhere, where are they going to go physically to be able to go in and see multiple types of coins? Or where are they going to be able to hold different rarities or be explained to them? Or like you said, build a relationship with them. So I think all that's really meaningful.
Yeah, agreed. So was there a deal or a collection or maybe a single coin that came through your shop that you still kind of think about, or you and your siblings kind of talk about?
There's one that haunts me as a deal that we didn't buy. I was at a function for one of my sons, and the guys called me like, "Hey, we need," it was a Saturday afternoon. They're like, "Hey, we need you to come to the office. I've got a deal that you've got to see." So I literally say bye to my wife, jump in the truck, head over to the office, and There was a customer and his wife, and he was a super nice guy, very jovial, very just a cool guy. He had two albums, and they were all, it was a complete Walker set. And I think the average grade, the early dates were all 64 and 65. Like I'm talking 19D, 19S, like the big boys, all the 16s, 21s. They were all just beautiful, beautiful coins. Most of them were cacked. And the short set dates were all 7. I mean, they were just old holders, beautiful collection. And he was bringing it in just to show his wife the value because she questioned whether or not it was worth what he keeps saying that it's worth. So he was like, I'm going to take it down to US coins and I'm going to show you where to deal if something happens to me ultimately. But it was also just kind of like a fun, mission for him. And I was doing everything I could to buy that deal. It just wasn't for sale, but he loved it dearly and didn't want to let it go. That had to be 10 years ago. And I was just talking to my dad about it the other day. I think about it probably once a month. I got to have it, so if you're listening, please come back. But no, but in all seriousness though, it just, there's always like we bought a 43 bronze. That's the first one we've ever bought the other day. And there's national news stories on those, once or two years, or in the news cycle, they're talking about, look at your change. You could have a couple $100,000 there. And we were offered one locally. We bought it the other day. I think that's a cool coin.
Yeah.
Right. I like having stuff like that in the shop.
There's just certain coins that just kind of jump out of the case, when you see them, right?
At the end of the day, it's a cent. It's a bronze cent. So it shouldn't be cool or sexy or attractive, but the story of how it got here is really cool.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times when people look at, for 200 grand, would you rather have a nice proof 20? Or would you rather have, 1 to 17 out of maybe a billion coins that were struck? So it just depends on the rarity that you're looking for and the aesthetic. That's what I love about the coin business, because there's just so many different avenues and so many really cool pieces out there.
Yeah, very cool, very cool. So let's move over towards maybe social media, live selling and new collectors, right? Because you guys have built a real following, selling and talking about coins online. You made his decision to bring that side of the business into social media and live selling platforms. How's that going for you?
Yeah, like the social media game it's amazing. Now, I would say that we probably haven't done as well as we should lately, just based on we're so busy in the store. It's hard. We do have a new social media person starting in office when we get back from the ANA, so that'll be nice. But overall, I think in the content space, people crave genuineness. They want to really see genuine, and I think a lot of coin dealers aren't comfortable with putting their business on there. They might be from maybe an older school train of thought where it's like, oh, well, you could, you're going to get, robbed and this and that, and you're going to do this. And, there's a lot of negatives to look at, and you can get drowned. You can drown yourself in negatives. We're trying to find the positive, especially with social media, because I think it's important that people really see how things work. And I think at the end of the day, that's what I follow on social media is understanding how things work and following trusted people to help take you on that path and that journey. Whereas I think in the coin space, a lot of times people use it as a function to sell, like on Instagram. Not my cup of tea. I think you sell through trust. And I think education helps build that trust. So that's always been our path. Now, Facebook, obviously we do some marketing there and we do well with it. Live streaming, we do it, but we don't really get into like the mystery pack game on that too much. From the coin shop angle, it's more just kind of your standard. This is what we have. This is what we bought this week. We're selling this week, and try to give good deals out there. But it all works together. And again, I think our interaction on social media, just in our engagement in the last 6 months, has just been outstanding. And we're really not even doing that much. So that really tells you the power.
Yeah, I know what you mean there. I mean, has being more digital, more social changed who walks through your doors or who logs into the streams compared to 5 years ago?
100%.
Because I would think people are getting comfortable with you online and your presence in the conversations. And now they go, hey, I'm going to come down to the store and see this for real.
Right. You almost become a celebrity in their mind a little bit, right? You're almost like you've got to be the guy because you're still here type situation, right? And I think when they come in, we might be in, gym shorts and a t-shirt and a hat, and they're like, oh, wow, this guy's just a normal guy. Like, we're all of us here on staff, we really try to remain very just a humble and just a very, easy to approach mindset. So I think having a little bit of social media it helps build a little mystique, and then they come in the store and they see the way business operates and like, wow, this is pretty cool. That's the feedback we get.
That totally makes sense. And that being said, what do you think is the biggest misconceptions that maybe newer or younger collectors have about the hobby when they first find you online? Because there's the older folks that know you from shows that now are watching your podcasts or following you on social. They kind of go, and the newer audience is kind of coming the other way. They're finding you on social, they're watching your podcast or
Right.
whatever it be, and then they're coming to do business. So it's one's coming from one direction. It feels like the other's coming from the other, if that's a fair statement.
Yeah, for sure. I think at any time, I'll speak for myself. When I'm looking to maybe get myself more involved in something, there's amount of research that's got to be done. And I think when you try to cram too much research on a young person, it's like, hey, it's easy for a young person, 15 to 18, to get involved in sports cards because they're probably playing three sports at that time, right? If you want to talk about coins are more backed by history. They don't want to come home from school after their one long history class and then talk about a bunch of history, right? So the allure isn't there as much. So I think it's just kind of a process of elimination. People look at it, and I think we market more to parents, grandparents, aunts, and uncles as kind of like, hey, this is a cool segue for kids to get into that does teach you a lot about intrinsic value, teaches you a lot about money and value, but it also teaches you a little bit about history and what I would just again call non-manufactured rarity, right? I mean, these coins, any numismatic, pre is it's considered rare, right? And there's some products out there. No, I mean obviously there's some modern products and stuff, but I personally don't know much about the modern industry. I'm more of just a strict numismatic guy. I really love vintage numismatics and um, think that when I put some really cool coins in kids' hands and they see like maybe like a $3 gold piece or a Stella or even $17.95 or $17.99, that's actually pretty affordable. They just can't even imagine that this silver dollar circulated in 1790 or was struck and produced in 1799 and circulated as a silver dollar. And you can see the light bulb start to go off with coins like that. Silver eagles and things, sure. I mean, it's a great way to get. It's a silver trade unit, right? And I think that people look at that, but it's kind of like, okay, I'm going to put this away now. I don't really need to look at it anymore because I've seen it. Whereas, like, I think vintage numismatics, it's like, oh wow, I did have a barber dime. I want to go find it, look at it. Maybe I want to grade it, and that's kind of where we start getting into starting to see where some of the young kids start to put it together.
Yeah, makes sense. I've been somewhat surprised that a lot of dealers are somewhat hesitant about social media or certainly live selling. And I get it; it's a little bit different space. But as an owner, do you think more people doing it? Does a rising tide lift all boats in this aspect? That more people doing social will get the market more comfortable with it, or do you just think it's something that most people aren't going to do? So you're taking advantage of the opportunity.
I think this about the coin business in general. I think it's one of the most friendly fire businesses I've ever seen in terms of you're literally shaking hands with guys that you're competing with. You're going to dinner with guys that you're competing with, and you're learning from guys that you're
Yeah.
competing with because the market's so vast and there's so much unknown potential out there that I think if there was another 1,000 coin streamers, it could be the best thing for everybody. And if there was another 1,000 coin shops that popped up in different cities and towns and whatnot, I think it could be the best thing for the hobby because there's so many people that don't know about numismatics. So no, I don't think there needs to be 5 to 10 big companies cornering the market on that stuff. I think you need a lot of little guys. Again, going back to the trust factor that we spoke about earlier. You get a big company that's insulated with a lot of C-suite employees, you lose that feel of the coin shop, the front lines. And I think a lot of times people don't want to deal with that. They don't want to deal with a guy in a suit. And they want to deal with a guy that looks like them and that acts like them and that talks like them. And that's what they're going to learn to trust. So I think I like what I see in the movement. I think places like eBay and Walmart Marketplace and all these other guys that are starting to dip their toe, which eBay's been around for a long time and doing numismatics for a long time. But I'm saying you've got copycats, right? And you've got people that are doing a good job. Whatnot, obviously, just kind of came out of nowhere and seems to be the place where most live selling is done. TikTok shop popping up. I mean, obviously, it's not going away, right? I mean, they've been talking, the live selling, the live selling has been going on for 10 years, really. It's just now starting to be, I still think this is so early in this whole movement.
And it seems like the live selling is a different audience, different type of product than your traditional numismatic, if you will. Not that's not a knock against it. It just feels like they're moving different product over there than.
Well, remember, if you have a coin shop, I believe you have, even if it's just someone that buys something, maybe you buy 20 deals a day or 10 deals a day, you're literally able to turn your inventory around that same day and get paid if it's on whatnot, right? So like you're literally able to take it, and how much more genuine does it get if you're like, hey, I opened up my coin shop today, I spent $17,820, and here it is on the table, and I'm going to start everything at 99 cents, and you're going to go to work and you're going to go home and say, okay, well, my revenue was, $18,400, and you're going to start doing your balance sheet, and you're going to start to realize, wow, I can make money at this. And I think that's what a lot of people do. And yeah, there's some weird and some bunk stuff out there, but for the most part, and I watch it a lot, there's some really good people doing a lot of good things. And again, if at the end of the day, if you bought a silver dollar and you paid $54 for it, and silver goes down $5 and you lose $5, it's like, it's still liquidity values there. If I would go spend $50 on some sport cards and I didn't get the card that I wanted, or the rookie that was expensive or something, you literally have nothing. Like you have, I've got cards laying all over my office that literally like I give away to kids and they don't even want them because they're literally worthless. But if you buy a numismatic, or you buy a silver based coin, or a gold based product on whatnot, you got intrinsic value always. Doesn't matter who you bought it from and any of that stuff, right? It's got value. And I really think people will continue to gravitate to that.
Yeah. As I tell my 3 daughters, it's never going to zero. So
No.
In fact, I was FaceTiming with my daughter yesterday because she had a flat tire. She lives in California, and she was walking down the street to a tire shop, and she goes, "Oh, there's a penny on the ground." So she reached over and picked it up, because I've taught her over the years, if it's 1909 SVDP, you want to hold on to that one, right? You never know, right?
No doubt.
So
you could be picking up a $700 penny, right?
Exactly, right there in front of you. Nobody wanted it in Venice, California.
Let me say this. If it does go to zero, I'm always paying $1. There will never be an instance where you cannot gain liquidity on gold and silver products that I can see, and if it is, then you got bigger problems to work with.
Yeah, I was going to say there's bigger problems coming if that ever gets to the point. So, the hobby and the market, let's focus on there. So what are you seeing right now in the market? Which series or categories are hot? Which do you think are due for a correction right now?
Well, I mean, right now it seems gold and silver seem to be getting a little bit more on plane.
Yeah.
I saw some of our budget numbers and where we are deficit wise. I think the market had to react to those numbers. So I think that's kind of what we're seeing now. In terms of, look, I keep thinking that sports cards have to correct. Man, I'd have been wrong 32 times. Like it is that market's so freaking white hot, it's insane. And I think it does bode well for numismatics. We've seen a little softness in gold in just 20s and Saints and 20 libs, and really anything dated gold wise, unless it's CAC'd. It's just kind of heavyweight inventory, to be fair.
Yeah, sounds right.
But we are starting to see that stuff pick up a little bit. CAC coins, PCGS stickered, and NGC stickered CAC coins, CACG graded coins, just white hot and have been since I can remember. I feel like the nicest coins really always end up in those combination of holders, and can't keep them in stock. And every time you sell one, you feel like you left money on the table because it's so hard to go out and replace. And again, going back to what we talked about, could you imagine, like, think if 1% of the card hobby got into numismatics? I mean, think about it. What would you be able to buy? What would you be able to go to A&A in Pittsburgh and literally be able to buy? You wouldn't be able to buy anything. It would be literal pandemonium. So anyway, I think that day comes. So I think there'll be a sports card shift, and someone's going to go, you know what? Maybe I don't want $1 million piece of cardboard. Maybe I'll go buy a cold hair Stella in 6 or 7, right? Yeah. And maybe I'd rather have that. Maybe that might be a better use of my money. And then all of a sudden, then they find out there's only 7 or 8 available in the world, if that many at all.
Yeah.
Then people are going to go, wow, like, wow, this stuff is really truly rare, and it's not. It was manufactured, but it was manufactured in 1879.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not 2026.
I tell stories of the 33, that Sotheby's sold a few years ago, for 19 million bucks, and it's 1 ounce of gold, which in theory is worth $4,400 today, and their
Not
jaw
even
just hits the floor, right? They're like, "What is this world? I know nothing about it," and that's kind of your point, right?
Yeah. Again, look, I mean, that coin I think sold in 2006 for 7 or 8 million, and
7
then
or 8 million, yeah.
and then it brought a world record. I think the coin's worth a ton more than 19 million today.
I heard it was being shot for 30. I don't know if it's true or not, but I heard it's being shot for 30 million now. What?
Wouldn't surprise me one bit. For a guy that's walking around wearing a $12 million chain of a Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan, signed upper deck card, you're telling me that card's worth 20 million, or would you rather have a 33 double eagle? For us, it's a no-brainer. But again, it just goes to show you the lack of real marketing out there in our space. So that, again, going back to what you said, 1,000 new people would only help. I just don't think it hurts.
Yeah, no, good point. Good point. Let's talk for a moment about third-party grading and authentication and how that's impacted the business today. I get a lot of questions about should I get this graded or not, and I'm not the right person to ask for that, but certainly the role of authentication and grading has never been more important, I would think, right?
No, 100%. Yeah, especially it just draws an even line in the sand, right? And it sets a trust factor that I don't have to sell. I feel like if you have to sell trust, that's an issue in terms of a dealer. So that's where the third party comes in, because they take trust into their hands with guarantees and whatnot, and should give the customer a sense of comfortability with buying that product and buying more, and understanding that the world understands that this grade is a 65, not the dealer that's selling it to me. You remember back in the day, you would see dealer tags on two by two flips, and it would say 63 to 65 grade, right, or 60 to 65. gives people a lot of runway to sell within those spreads, right?
Yeah, right.
I'm going to sell it at a 65, but buy it as a 60. What does that mean, right? So the grading company's coming in, setting a definitive number, putting out a price guide that sets a definitive, kind of a retail oriented, what is the coin going to bring into certain space, I think is very helpful. No, I don't think, I think that there's really truly never been a better time to be into that space, because I haven't spoken to them, but I can imagine that their backlogs are all pretty long, with certifying stuff.
That's what they tell me too. It's
Is that what they say?
Oh yeah. I spoke with John Albanese the other day, and he goes, we just can't get to them.
Yeah, I mean, and that's a good thing, right? That right there should tell you the hobby heartbeat, right? It should tell you, like, if the grading companies are slow getting your packages, I see people complaining about it all the time. And trust me, I've got a full bill of complaints too. I'm just not going to air my laundry out on social media, right? But you have to also think about it from the other side. Kind of like the glass is half full. It's like, well, that means there's a lot of demand. And if there's a lot of demand, that means that your products are probably not losing money as they sit.
Good point. Yes.
There's
That's a good deal. Good deal. Well, let's kind of reflect and maybe look ahead a moment. So, obviously being named to the most influential people put you, alongside with collectors, grading executives, legacy dealers who've been named there. Your father, obviously a top 10 person, has been 5 years in a row
10?
in terms of us.
Top 10?
Top 10. Your dad is a top 10 person influencer in the space, and obviously the legacy that your company and your family has built speaks for itself. And so, what does that recognition perhaps maybe mean for you and your family?
I mean, I think it just shows you what kind of father we have, right? What kind of man that my dad is, and the way that he does business, and the way that he's taken time with all three of the boys to really make sure that we all understand, and understand our own business models, and hire the right employees, and just keep a culture that makes people want to stay with you and work hard. I don't think I mean, for me, we just work hard. We got a great team here, my brother and I. We got some great friends that work with us and for us, and a lot of goals and a lot of bigger dreams that we're going to continue to chase. So being named that is great, but I think it really speaks more. It's a good testament to my dad.
It's nice of you to say that. So where do you want U.S. Coins and Jewelry to go? Your role in the hobby, or where do you want to be 5 years from now?
Up, just up. Like I guess I don't have like a big board, number or revenue number or any target like that. I would call my dad a gunslinger. Right? My dad's just doesn't have a lot of metrics, doesn't use a lot of things. He uses his gut, right? That's guided him the right way for over 40 years. And I think with us, we're a little bit more analytical and try to be a little bit more, I would say, a little more strategic in some of the stuff that we're doing in the future. So I would say continuing to lean on that, continuing to try to get social media and the right messages out there, continue to put the right products out on live stream and building relationships on that side of things to continue to grow and just shed a positive light on numismatics. I mean, again, like we spoke about before, there's so many great dealers around the country. Here, let me liken it to a hobby shop in Houston. If you want to buy cards at there's a hobby shop in Houston. I couldn't recommend you to one person, but I could recommend you to 3 other coin dealers. Like if the deal wasn't just for me, there's 2 or 3 other guys in Houston that do coins that I really trust and that I would refer to a friend if I wasn't the guy in the business, right? So I think the coin hobby, the more that we lean into each other and the more that we pat each other on the back and talk and speak good things into the hobby, I think it's just the sky's the limit.
Yeah, rising tide lifts all boats, right? If it's done the
Yeah,
right way.
I think it plays very well in this space.
Oh, good. Well, last question. Is there a question that I haven't asked that you wish more people would ask you about you, the shop, or where you think the hobby's headed?
No, I mean I think we covered a lot of really good topics. Again, I really I really don't think that people truly understand how rare that rare coins really are. The great stories behind them are just some of the best. It's like when I'm trying to collect something, like, so now I'm a middle-aged guy now and I've got some disposable income. I'm trying to figure out what I can go collect outside of our hobby. And I've just never been able to dip my toe in the water because there's no one out there that's educating, right? Like I love meteorites and gemstones, but what do you think the buyback on that stuff is? What do you think the fair market value versus retail is? It would blow your mind the multiples of X that people say that they think rare products really are. And here we are, making 7 to 10% wholesale on really, really rare coins, hoping that we can find a customer to buy it. I just think I think that changes one day. I really do.
Yeah.
I think that rare coins, people are going to start figuring out about it, and I think it's going to get very interesting.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. Transparency is a good thing for most industries, and certainly for numismatics, the same thing. The more education, the more information, the more, as you
Exactly.
said, more dealers doing these kind of things is could only help the hobby, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
We never look at a competitor and go, no, that now this guy's in the space. It's more like, okay, great. Now this person's going to help bring more eyeballs. If we continue to do things the way we've been doing it, it's just proven success. We're gonna get a percentage of that business, and once we get that business, we're going to keep that business.
Well, good. Well, good. Well, Kenny, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today, and congratulations again on being named to the most influential list for 26 to you and your brothers and your fathers. And so it's a real testament to you and your family and your business. And candidly, after this time, it's easy to see why. The way you and your family have grown and how you've opened the door for so many new collectors says a lot about where the hobby is heading. So to our audience, if you want to see more from Kenny, check out the links below. And if you're ever in the Houston, Texas area, stop by U.S. Coins and Jewelry and see it all in person. And thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Thank you
Thanks,
very much.
Rick. Appreciate it.